The Port of Portland Commission is meeting by Microsoft Teams today on Wednesday, March 12th. Welcome, everyone. Great to see you, even if it's on a teeny tiny little computer screen. I do need a motion and a second to grant a leave of absence to Commissioner Luther, who is out of town.
This is Caitlin.
Second, whichever is needed.
Yes, exactly. Pam can make it up.
Yes.
Pam, could you please call the roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioners Adams.
Aye.
Koba.
Aye.
Devon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lamb. Nemi.
Aye.
Sumput.
Aye.
And Strader.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second for approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting of February 12th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Pam, can you please call the roll call vote again?
Yes, Commissioners Adams.
Aye.
Koba.
Aye.
Devon.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lamb.
Aye.
Nemi.
Aye.
Sumput.
Aye.
And Strader.
Motion carries. Our executive director report is up next. Curtis, I see that you're on. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners, port employees, guests. Nice to see everyone this morning. If I could ask for the next slide to come up, would love to start our meeting today highlighting our safety champions. You'll see them here on the screen, Carol and Sean and Eric and Steve. Some great stories across the port of folks thinking about safety first. For Carol, really around landscaping and making sure our teams are safe out there when they're coming across biological and infectious waste on our properties. Sean and Eric, some great stories at Marine Ops and Marine Maintenance during the freezing spell a few weeks back. Both of them essentially came out in the night to secure water lines and clear the entrance to the terminal. Just really appreciate the two of them watching out for our Marine crew. And then Steve, fun, interesting work around T-Core, installing some state-of-the-art LED illuminated traffic signs to really help in the Bag Road area, keep people safe and to keep accidents from happening. So really a deep appreciation to port employees for focusing on safety and for each other and for our business partners and community. Next, if I could, I'd like to call on our navigation dredge captain, Mark, who is going to give this month's safety message. Mark, are you ready to roll?
I am, Curtis. Thank you very much.
You bet. Morning.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I am Mark Wright. I am the captain of the dredge. My pronouns are he, him. If I could very quickly, I'd like to recap on something Curtis said in the February commission meeting. I think it's worth noting again, 2024 was the safest year in the port's 135-year history. And that really hits deep for me because our business line, navigation, is 135 years old. And that means last year was our safest year ever out on the water. So that doesn't happen by accident, no pun intended. That's a result of the culture that has been instilled throughout the ports. Our main goal is always 0 injuries. But my main objective as the captain is to always foster and promote the safety culture. It's truly paying dividends now. It hasn't always been like that at navigation. I think those that were around 10 years ago know what our safety culture was like. And it has not been an easy or quick change, but it was certainly a necessary one. and we're definitely seeing the results. Right now at Navigation, it's kind of our slow time of the year. We are in what we call major maintenance partial crew. We have about a third of our staff on site, working on some big ticket items to have us prepared for next season. We're working on rebuilding the main engine right now. Upcoming in April, we have our 2-week safety training. I know our safety department is working hard to schedule all of the outside vendors that we bring in for that. They've done an exceptional job over the past couple of years, making it very interactive for all of our crew members. It's a good balance between classroom work and practical work in the field. One exciting thing this year during safety training that we've been trying to work on for the past couple of years, we're actually going to have Life Flight land a helicopter at Navigation so we can practice on what that looks like if we ever have to do emergency evac, and hopefully that never happens. But just so happy with last year's results, even though it wasn't perfect. We did have one OSHA recordable, so we have plenty of room for improvement. You know, we're doing a great job at using the safety lens for all of our capital projects. You know, it's a very exciting time at Navigation. We're working on a brand new tugboat, you know, replacing a tugboat that's 70 years old. And from the start of it, you know, safety has been involved with all the engineering that goes on behind the scenes. So yeah.
Perfect. Mark, thank you. Really appreciate you, the whole dredge crew, your team out there, and, you know, a shout out as well to the operating engineers, Local 701. They're terrific, great partners on safety. Just really grateful for the focus and for taking the time this morning for the safety message. We still have, I think, 2 commissioners who haven't been out on the dredge. So I see you. We'll get you out there this summer when it's gorgeous and incredible out on the river. So thanks, Mark. Really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So a couple other messages and maybe a shout out or two this morning. Thanks to the frontline staff and the behind the scenes crew, business partners who kept the airport running, and travelers and employees safe during last month's winter storm. I mentioned earlier in my comments, it was problematic across a number of our properties, and I just really appreciate everyone who kept the teams working together and worked around the clock to keep our facilities open and operational, something that many airports around the country were not able to do. Last week, the first of the 4 final roof cassettes moved into place in PDX Phase 2. You're going to hear more about Phase 2 today from Vince Granato and his team, really about how we're bringing the final 30% of the project to life, getting ourselves to shorter walks and more seating and even more local shops by 2026. Just thrilled about that progress. President Koba and I had the good fortune of spending Monday in Salem meeting with legislators, and we've had some really good news. On Friday last week, the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Capital Construction approved $5 million for the port's operating needs at Terminal 6. It is, as I think, commissioners, you're aware, it's this 3-part ask, one around capital for dredge placement along the Columbia River, one around Terminal 6 capital, and this operating piece of $5 million. We just got really great reception in Salem. Honestly, we're really pleased to hear from both Republicans and Democrats about a commitment to job creation and high quality jobs in our region in a time when maybe it feels like it's harder to find areas of compromise and agreement. So feel really good about that. Looking forward to more good news as we go through the rest of the session. As I touched lastly on trade, it's worth knowing we're really keeping a close eye on how trade policy is evolving. We're talking to our customers and our tenants at properties in the region to really understand about the impacts and identify some strategies that we might utilize to help offset the blow of national trade policy and this sort of back and forth on tariffs and countervailing tariffs that feel very unproductive. I really appreciate partners and champions in the legislature, including the Senate President and State Representative Daniel Wynn, who's the Economic Development Chair on the House side, really helping us. Representative Wynn sponsored House Bill 3100, which is the Oregon Trade Bill, really about developing a unified trade strategy for the state and planning to react and do our part around President Trump's tariff strategy, such as it is. Really looking for collaboration with our partners at the Oregon Tourism Commission and the Department of Agriculture and Business Oregon and other stakeholders. So just really appreciate that. Also appreciate President Coba for lending her voice. In fact, last weekend, published a piece in the Portland Tribune about the importance of trade to people and working people around the state of Oregon. Appreciate you, President Coba, for that article. And then finally, last shout out for me, our own Chief Shared Prosperity Officer, Myra Arreola, is being recognized today by the Portland Business Journal as a woman of distinction. So congratulations to Myra. Appreciate her leadership here at the port and in the community. Just really happy to celebrate that honor for her today. So, Madam President, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for the time.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for Curtis or any comments? Let's see if anyone is raising their hand, and I don't see anything. All right, so we will move on. Don't hesitate to speak up if I miss you. We have public comment next, and we do have one group here.
Commissioner,
yes.
we
Pam.
need a motion and a second for approval.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for that. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the executive director's report?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Pam, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioners Adams,
Aye.
Coba,
Aye.
Devon,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lamb,
Aye.
Nemi,
Aye.
Samput,
Aye.
and Strader.
Aye.
Thank you.
Right, motion carries. Thank you all. Now we'll move on to public comment. We do have one group that has signed up to testify, Unite Here. I hope I have that correct. So I will go ahead and let whoever is going to speak on their behalf introduce yourself and share your remarks.
Hello, thank you, commissioners. You can hear me, correct?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. There's three of us who are going to testify. I'm Jennifer Graham. I'm the union representative for the Hudson News workers at PDX. And today we bring you a petition signed by a majority of Hudson workers who have pledged their commitment to stay at PDX if Marshall Group will hire them. I'll read the language on the petition. We are concerned that our jobs will be eliminated. We want to keep working at PDX and keep our wages and affordable health care. We commit to keep working at the airport and ask the Port of Portland to make a commitment to us. Tell Marshall Group to hire Hudson workers and respect our experience and the years we have devoted to making this airport the best airport in the U.S. The treatment of workers that the port's concessions policies enable is shameful. In other airports around the country, workers have real job security that assures them when their employer gets kicked out of the airport, they do not lose everything as well and can get a job with the new company. We believe that the port has the power to make sure that Marshall Group hires the workers who will be laid off in July, and we call on you to do so.
Hello, my name is Paul Tamlin. I'm a warehouse associate at Hudson. I've worked at PDX for 10 years. I've been on all the bargaining committees, and we've had union contact contract since 2017, as I recall. In January, our union health insurance just started. Very good health insurance, pays 90% of my costs and only costs $75 a month. So we're very concerned about that. We worked for years now to get the jobs and benefits we have, and and our pensions. We'd like to keep them. Some of us, like Donna, and particularly down here, worked all through the pandemic. So we've been loyal to the port. So we're hoping you can help us in our future with Marshall Group, if possible, or other companies. And I wanted to thank you.
One other commenter, correct?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Donna Evenhuis, and I have been a lead associate with Hudson for 8 years. We got the news that we were going to lose our jobs 2 days before Christmas. We feel like we as Hudson employees have been so loyal to the port. We are the first ones to open, the last ones to close, and this is every day, because I know I'm here at 3:30 to unlock the stores. And we always stay open during snow and ice storms. We had people sleep at the airport, so our stores would open on time. Now we have to apply for a job with the new company, and many of us are older, and we are afraid that they won't hire us based on our age. We don't understand why the port will not help us keep our jobs here. We already have badges and have passed background checks, and we know the airport like the back of our hand. You all have the power over the concession companies here. Hudson has told us that, and I have seen it with my own eyes. Please use that power to make sure that we get hired by Marshall Group, and those of us who have worked here the longest aren't discriminated against. Thank you.
Thank you all for your comments, and we appreciate you coming and providing testimony to the port. We have one commissioner with her hand raised, Commissioner Nemi.
Yeah, I'm Commissioner Meg Nemi. I know this is an odd way to give testimony and you can't even see us. And I just wanted to thank you for coming today. I want to thank you for your service with the airport. And I want you to know that I hear your request, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Right, we will move on to our next agenda item. We have 2 general discussion items, and to introduce the first item, I'll call on Dan Pippinger.
Good morning, Commissioners. Great to see you all virtually this morning. Today, I'm here to introduce a general discussion item. This month, we're celebrating Women's History Month at the Port of Portland. And leading this effort is our Women's Plus Development Network Employee Resource Group. And they have some great events lined up this month, which they will share with you in their presentation. But I did want to also note the dedicated effort in this past year that the membership has been working with the group on and revitalizing their mission, focusing on how members can be supported and successful, and really important to me, being more visible and connecting to both new employees and those employees that work in other port facilities besides the headquarters facility. We have a lot of remote facilities, so to speak. So very pleased with that. As the executive sponsor of the group, I'd like to introduce Tori Schmaltz, who's a facilities asset manager, and Masa Eshki, who an engineering project manager, and they'll give the presentation on Women's History Month. Turning it over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Good morning. I'm Tori Schmaltz, Facilities Asset Manager and co-chair of the Women's Plus Development Network, or W+DN. I've been with the port for nearly 10 years, starting in the Marine Maintenance Department, where I worked my way up from Marine Assistant to Maintenance Planner Scheduler 3. I was often the only woman in the room, or even the entire building. but these kinds of experiences pushed me to grow and help shape my career along the way.
Good morning. My name is Mahsa Ishki, an engineering project manager and a member of W+DN. As an immigrant from Iran and a female civil engineer, I faced many challenges, but turned them into opportunities to grow and push forward. I'm grateful for the support that has shaped my journey, and I'm here to reflect it for the next generation, including my 2 daughters.
Next slide. We are honored to present to you today on behalf of W+DN, which has actively been supporting the growth and development of female and gender non-binary port employees for over 10 years. Today, we want to share a bit of history around how International Women's Day was established and highlight how a few other countries celebrate this day each year on March 8th.
In 1910, Clara Zetkin, leader of the Women's Office for the Social Democratic Party in Germany, proposed the idea of a global Women's Day. Her vision was for every country to celebrate this day annually to honor women's social, economic, cultural, and political achievements, as well as promote gender equality. Clara's proposal had full support, leading to the creation of International Women's Day, which is a national holiday in many countries around the world now. Today, we will be sharing how International Women's Day is celebrated in Italy, Australia, Mexico, and Africa. Next slide, please.
In Italy, International Women's Day is celebrated by acknowledging the accomplishments of women and by holding events to remember women who have been victims of violence. The mimosa flower was chosen as a symbol of International Women's Day, and it is traditional to give a bouquet to women on this day. The flower represents female solidarity and resilience. Although it looks fragile, it thrives even in the harshest environments. Next slide.
We now visit Australia, where International Women's Day has been officially recognized since 1974, although it has been celebrated for over 50 years. This year, Australia is honoring the International Women's Day through a global conference, highlighting key speakers such as Governor-General of Australia and patron of UN Women and former President of Ireland. This event has focused on breaking barriers, reshaping policies, and igniting global movements. Despite significant progress, the promises made remain largely unfulfilled for millions of women worldwide. They are now determined to turn promises into progress. Next slide, please.
In Mexico, International Women's Day is often a day that is used for demonstration rather than celebration. On this day in Mexico, large numbers of women and men mobilize for large-scale protests, acts of advocacy, and calls for legal reform for women's rights and safety. In many countries around the world, this day also serves as a platform to demand basic rights, safety, and protection for women.
Next. Our final stop is Africa, where Pan-African Women's Day is celebrated on July 31st across all the countries in Africa. This day marks the founding of the Pan-African Women's Organization in 1962, the first women's organization on the continent dedicated to gender equality and empowerment. Pan-African Women's Day honors the achievements of African women in education and equality, while also recognizing ongoing challenges like violence and food insecurity. Next slide, please.
While the U.S. does not recognize International Women's Day as an official holiday, W+DN is recognizing International Women's Day and Women's History Month with several exciting events throughout the month. We have a self-defense class planned, a panel discussion with the port's female executives, a donation drive for a local women's shelter, and a book discussion focused on women's issues. It is our intention to acknowledge the strength, power, and brilliance that women contribute to the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both, Tori and Masa. Great presentation. Makes me feel good. And I know just taking the time to recognize the contributions of women throughout the port, it's very, very important. So thank you for the work you do and excellent presentation. Any other questions or comments? I noticed Commissioner Nemi was clapping her hands. It was fun to see. If not, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us. Go ahead, Commissioner Lamb.
I just have to say I appreciate how you walk us through the international countries, how do they celebrate, and also use the platform for a better work for the future women's recognition. So I really appreciate that. That was very insightful.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Right. For our last agenda item, I'll call on Vince Granado to make the introduction.
Okay, good morning, commissioners, and great opportunity for us to talk a little bit about what's been going on with Terminal Core. We opened, the first phase in August, so it's been almost 7 months, and but we've still been very busy behind the scenes getting ready for phase 2. And obviously, the opening was pretty great. We've gotten a lot of very positive response from the community. There's been a lot of publications and awards, and our comms team's really done a phenomenal job of helping us get the story out about the things that we've been able to achieve and the goals and how to have it replicated. So while it's been great up to this point, we still have a lot of work to do. And the second phase of the project is actually the second biggest project the port's ever taken on. So we're still remaining true to our safety goals, and the team's going to talk about that a little bit and just trying to manage the impact on the operations. There's still a lot of activity out on the airfield, and then obviously we're going to get the building enclosed, and it does the demolition that's going on and the traveling public. So there's a lot of time and energy spent on that. I have a couple people here to help walk you through this. George, who you've seen many times as our senior project manager, and Christopher Neal, the director of PDX operations, and they're going to go through the presentation. But one of the risks that George that we talk about, and George is going to get into some of what the risks are, is just the stability of the team. And this is a long project. The port team has been together, this CPO team, for about five years, and we've had remarkable stability of being able to keep everybody together. The same thing has happened with the Hoffman Skanska team, and also with ZGF, and it's a really important thing to try and keep that stability. But when you do a big project and you do it really well, folks start to come calling, and we've got 3 folks on the team that are going to be transitioning out. And I wanted to just acknowledge them publicly. I wish we were here in person, but just to really thank them for all the work that they've done, and then talk a little bit about what our plan is for replacing them. So first, to my left here is Brad Harrison, and Brad's been with the port for over 25 years, and he was in charge of all the construction of this. And Brad's getting an opportunity to go do the construction for Tampa's new terminal. They've got $1.5 billion project there, and Brad's going to go run that for them. And I know he'll do a fantastic job for Tampa, just like he did for us here. He was a really critical piece of the team for sure in that interface with the Hoffman Skanska team. Dan Gilkison, if we can go to the next slide, would be great. To Dan Gilkison. Dan's staying with the port, which is good, but Dan is moving into our interim role of the head engineer, director of engineering for the port. And Dan, I'm not sure if he's even on. He had hip replacement surgery on Monday, so whether he's on or not, I'm not sure. But good. So again, just wanted to acknowledge the great work that Dan did as well, and he's got a fabulous opportunity here at the port, and we're really proud of him for getting this. And he's done everything, airline concessions, and is just a great resource for here internally. And then the gentleman to my right, Christopher Neal, and Chris has just been selected as the new Chief Operating Officer for Multnomah County. Big job for Chris. He just did a fantastic job here for us, and but he moves on to a real big opportunity and a big challenge for sure. And we're just really proud of him. And I wanted to thank these folks publicly for all the work that they've done to get us to where we are. And, but it is one of the things that our team is talking about is, okay, how do we keep going forward? And we've got another year to go. And fortunately, we've got some real good people that are going to step in. I've got Glenn Moe from the construction side that'll take over for Brad. He's been here for over 30 years. And so Glenn will step in and take Brad's role. Lori Lamro's been here for about 18 years, and she will step into Chris's role as the director of operations. Both of them have been on the team already. So we've got the folks waiting in the wings and ready to go to take on these new roles. And with Dan, we're reassigning just some of the work to other folks in the team. And so I think we're covered. But obviously when this happens, the team gets a little thinner when you lose 3 folks. And so it's something that I'm thinking about all the time, that the Hoffman Skanska team and ZGF is doing as well. It's just to make sure we've got that continuity of the team to get us over the final hurdle here in the last year or so to get us there. I'm confident of it. And the folks that are still here and focused on it, it's going to be a great outcome. And we're working closely with the operations team as well. So, but it is certainly the risks, and George will talk about some of the other risks on the project going forward. But this was just my opportunity to thank them publicly for all the great work that they've done. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to George and Chris to go through the slides and kind of give you a more detailed update on what's coming up.
Yeah, I think let's go to the next slide. I think it's me first. Perfect. Okay. So yes, this is the last commission meeting before I head over to the county. And so the one thing I did want to say is, here at the port, we talk about, we want the port to be the place where everybody does their best work. And I am a 100% example of just that. So I am proud of that. We as a port should be proud of that as well. Going from TSA to Public Safety and Security and PDX Next, which has been fantastic. It's all been great, and I appreciate everybody's support, everybody's trust, etc. So I just wanted to say thank you on that. Also, I have the opportunity to give all good news as my last one. I also want to make a note that it is 10:05 on the Wednesday, the 12th, when Brad and I were here, and all these schedules were on track. Everything was good to go. There were no problems at 10:05 on the 12th. Whatever happens after we leave this room, I'm not sure. But let me go through all the great news that's happening right now while Brad and I are still here. Safety. Try to do that without laughing. Safety update. We are at 6 million, over 6 million man hours, or craft hours without lost time. All the construction milestones here are tracking as well. So we're happy about that. Curtis mentioned we've got one module that already went in, and we'll start working on the second one here in the next couple of weeks or so. So again, all of these are on track. We've been working well with operations on all of these. Vince mentioned a little bit of that as well. You can imagine all the closing down and the opening up and moving people out. It's a lot that we have to do with operations. So we want to give a shout out to them, just helping us manage all of this continued construction that's going on in phase 2. So again, I don't need to necessarily go through all 4 of these, but they are on track, on schedule as of 10:06 on the 12th on Wednesday of March. The next one is TSA checkpoint lane status. So maybe 2 months ago or so, we implemented cross lane. A quick note of what that is, that just allows any TSA officer at any lane to screen bags from any lane on any checkpoint throughout the entire airport versus just the bags that are on their lane. Incredibly efficient. We started that a couple months ago. The next phase of that is remote screening, where TSA officers that are doing the screening on the lanes will be gone and off to the side in a remote room. And then you're a passenger coming through, you won't even see the officers anymore because they'll be in a remote room. But we're already set up to do that when that comes with TSA. So we're excited about that. Next is ticket lobby phasing. That phasing is also on schedule, on track, and we've already started working on the ceiling, which started a couple days ago. We expect the ticket lobby, all of it, to be done by October. And I think that is all I have. The last one here, I'm going to turn it over to George Seaman to talk about Ground Source and go through a whole bunch of nice photos.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Just want to let everybody know here at 10:07, if any problems occur through the rest of the project, it's because of the decisions Chris made prior to 10:07. So it's going to be set up for that. Ground source system is just commissioners remember, that is the system that allows us to use the heat from the ground to the water from the ground to basically allow us to go about 95% fossil fuel free. We reached a milestone on that project last week, when we pulled the piping underground about 2,500 feet from the Sheraton to the Central Utility Plant. That project has now reached that milestone, and over the next 7 or 8 months, we'll put the heat recovery chiller in. We've abandoned and removed the old boilers, steam boilers in the utility plant, and they're out, and we'll replace that system here over the next few months. With the plan is by the end of the year, get that operating. Next slide. So this was what I showed Commission last time we were there in October, right after opening day. As you notice, we definitely haven't opened gate D4. C3 was about to open up. There's still a couple of barriers around it, but it opened up in about a week or so later. And we still had not really done any of the major demolition of the nodes on the old security checkpoint areas at the north and south side. Next slide. Would have been about a month or a couple weeks ago. We do an aerial photography of the construction site the end of each month. So you see at this point, the end of February, the major structural demolition was complete on both the north and the south side. So all of the roof and most of the penthouses are all out of the way. Next slide. The kind of a deeper dive into the south node. The south node is where the Alaska Lounge will be. So you see the steel at the bottom. So the lounge is being constructed. The Y columns are in place, and then all the support steel is in place for bringing the new modules in. Just as Curtis and Vincent mentioned, just came in over the last week. Next slide. And then on the north side, the space is essentially demolished. They will start putting the Y columns in starting in the next couple of days on the north side in preparation for the roof modules moving in. Next slide. And this is a picture over at the prefab yard. You'll see in the red is a lot of the self-propelled mobile transportation and system set up to lift the roof module. The first roof module was moved over, and then over the next week or so, the drawer will be slid into place. Next slide. One of the interesting things of the airport is the airport actually drains from the Columbia River in the north to the south side where the slough is. So if you look at our terminal building, when we brought the roof modules over from in the alleyway, we had to just the direct and accurate elevation for those. But on the south side, because of the slope of the ground, you have to actually had to build a ramp to get the modules up to the right level. That's the ramp to actually hold about 1.4 million pounds in the right condition. Next slide. And then last Thursday night, the first module came over. That was slid into place. Pretty big moment two nights ago when it was moved into place. One of the big differences between phase two to phase one. Phase one, we brought this module, which is about 220 feet long, 120 feet wide, brought it in from the alleyway and then slid it into place, and it basically terminated on the Y column. Going this way from the outside in, as it was moved into place from Y column to shoring tower to the final Y column, there was about a 90-foot cantilever at the end with all that steel that then had to mate to the existing roof. So it was a really big milestone when that was then jacked up. About a million pounds had to be picked up about a foot or so to get into the correct location. Next slide. And that was complete and bolted up last night. Schedule-wise, as Chris alluded to, we are on schedule. We anticipate being back to commission towards the end of the year for an amendment for the ZGF contract. We're looking at completing phase two, the south and north node, first quarter of next year, and then there'll be some follow-on projects, and I'll talk about that in a little bit in the risk or follow-on phases. Next slide. Budget-wise, we are holding and maintaining the budget. At this point in time, we have about $34 million of overall contingency, and that is tracking to about 10% of the cost to complete the project. There's about $300 million in the Hoffman-Skanska contract still to spend, and there's some port cost as well as ZGFs, but we're tracking and feel comfortable right now with the contingency. From a small business participation, we're tracking at about 20%, as we've committed to on the overall contract for the Hoffman-Skanska, and about 10% on ZGF. Next slide. So one of the things to talk about is risk going forward. This installation of the roof module really was a key point. We still got to do the north side, but that kind of gets rid of a lot of the big technical risk on the project. We still got to put the building in, put the curtain wall in and contain the building. But that is really the same thing we did on phase one. It's just duplicating what we did. We want to make sure from a project perspective, we're maintaining our safety focus. We all learned in phase one, really pushing the construction team to hold a very tight schedule, caused some issues which caused our delay, and we do not want to get in the same situation here in phase two. So everybody is very, very focused on making sure we don't overpush the schedule at the risk of safety on the project. Continuing the roof curtain wall installations, we worked really well with the operations team and minimized the impacts to the traveling public and our operations, and we'll continue to do that. Really, we just have just a few more weeks of work where we're gonna have to shut down the bypasses as we go forward. One of our big risks on schedule really is our risk on the project is around schedule containment. So you think about the tail of the project, phase three of the project, it is really to get phase two operational, so get the nodes back up and operational. When that happens, we then demolish the bypasses, do the pavement work outside, repair it, and then put the gates back in operation that we've pulled out of operation for the bypasses. Schedule-wise, that work all has to occur during relatively good weather outside. We can't get to winter to do pavement work. That's kind of our focus on schedule, is so that we can complete phase two on time, so we can get all that work done the summer, fall at the latest of 26. So we maintain getting the bypasses up, the gates up by, say, October or so of 26. If we miss that schedule, then we have to push that out to the next summer with the added cost associated with general conditions. So that's really our big focus and big risk is on schedule attainment. The second part for the tail of the project, the final part is the Alaska Lounge operational. Our final kind of the tip of the tail, call it, of the project is to build new restrooms where the Current Alaska Lounge is and extend gate C4. So when Alaska gets their lounge operational, we have about 8 to 9 months of follow-on work. They have just hired Fortis Construction to build a lounge for them. So the teams are starting to figure out exactly how quick we can get their lounge built for them, which will then allow that final piece of work to go. But at that point in time, that is a much smaller team. So our risk, if there's any delays, are a lot lower. Now, the final thing I'll kind of talk about is the commissioning of the ground source system. It is a new system for us. So the overall project commissioning, bring things up to get the lead points for the project, and then the ground source system operational. We're planning on that next winter. But our overall risk is really low on that because we'll operate just like we did this winter on some boilers that are in the Western expansion. So it's not a big risk from a cost perspective, but it is a risk from a schedule perspective to make sure that we meet our commitments. And I think that's probably it. Next slide should be, yeah, that's it. Any questions?
Any questions for George or for Chris? Wow, I'm not seeing any. That's just because everything is going so well. Let's keep it that way. Thank you all. Yes, I see you, Chris. Thank you all as ever for the great work that, just, I think everyone kind of mentally said, oh, the roof is on, the terminal is open, everything's done. We all well know that's not the case at all. And a lot of hard work yet to come. We're very excited, as I'm sure you are, to have it complete. But we also want to maintain the safety of everyone working on the project and get there in the right way. So thank you for everything up to this point and what is yet to come. I'm just double checking to make sure there aren't any others with questions or comments. So I will, as I mentioned in the chat, take a moment to just say huge congratulations to Brad and to Chris and to Dan. Brad and Chris, you will definitely be missed, and we appreciate everything you've done for the port. Brad, it might be a little harder to see you every now and then in Florida unless we're flying through Tampa, but we wish you the best. And Chris, we hopefully will get a chance to see more of you as you move over to the county. I don't know. Last time I checked, the county seemed to be moving just fine. No issues. It could be a really boring job. And then Dan, thanks for stepping up and filling the hole that we have on the team. And just, again, it's just a moment to recognize what an incredible staff we have at the port, and you three are just indicative of all of that, and we truly wish you nothing but the best. With that, if I don't see anything else, which I don't think I do, take care, everyone, and meeting is adjourned. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.